Welcome to this video in which I'm going to be talking about the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, right? So if you're applying to Tuck this year, please stay with me till the end of the video. I'm going to be sharing a lot of information about the school and also about how you should be approaching the MBA essays, right? So let's start off with the first thing, which is what do you have as the deadlines? This year, Tuck has done away with their early action round. So till last year, they had a concept of an early action round. But this year, they have come down to the usual 3 rounds. You have round 1, which is September 24th. You have round 2, which is Jan 7th. And you have round 3, which is April 1st. As I tell Indian candidates applying to the school, if you are looking at a top school such as Tuck, R3 should not be really the round that you should be looking at. Look at just R1 and R2, correct? Look at just the September 24th or the Jan 7th deadline. Is there a difference between these two deadlines? Not much, yes there is, but really don't worry too much. I would still go with your profile, your GMAT scores, your application, all of which are important for the school, right? So let's get a look into the school itself. One thing about Tuck, if you talk to anyone, you go to their website, there is this big deal about the community, right? The Tuck community. And, most of the students are living on campus, very tight-knit, close, bonded community. I think this sense of community is what ends up being their USP, right? Like Columbia has New York to be its USP. Harvard has its tradition as its USP. Stanford and Berkeley has, they have their location as Bay Area, which is their USP. So every school has its USP. Tuck's USP has to be its community. I remember one of my students, he said, if you are a Tuck MBA student and did this exercise, he actually sent out an email to 10 Tuck alums, okay? And these were across the last 10 years. And these were people who are at fairly high positions, okay, in the corporate world. And he said, Arun, I got 9 people responding, okay, and one guy who didn't respond, he was basically out of office, right? He was on vacation. 9 of them responded in a couple of days, and he said, that's the power of Tuck alum, right? I think, you can write in blood that, I'm going to be able to help you. That's really the USP. I think the focus is on the MBA. They don't have a PhD program. So I think that's another thing that without doctoral programs to advise and teach, the Tuck professors are free to focus completely on the MBA students. So I think that's another advantage. You also have this general management and leadership focus. So if you look at their website, you will see that it talks a lot about general management and leadership development and a lot of things such as the Center of Leadership at Tuck, which enforces this. So I think that's pretty much what Tuck has. And if I could tell one thing that probably doesn't work is it's in Hanover, it's in the middle of nowhere. So not really located close to a large city could be a little problem. But given that the kind of community they have, I think it may not make sense for the school to be anywhere else, right? Like in a large city. So that's about the program. Let's have a look at the essay questions that Tuck has for this year. So interesting that they have really 2 large essays and they have a bunch of short essays. Okay. So let's look at the longer form essays. Essay number 1, Tuck students are aware of how their individuality adds to the fabric of Tuck. Tell us who you are and what you will contribute. 500 words. Agreed, very tough. I think it's like the Stanford essay. What do you value most and why? I think if you were to ask me, you need to be very honest. The way I would approach this essay is I would like to pick a couple of adjectives that describe me. Okay, and what I would do is I would take each of these adjectives and I would tell A, why does that adjective apply to me? Okay, for example, if I were to say that, and as a person, I like to help people. So if I were to say Arun the helper or Arun the teacher or Arun the mentor, you need to tell me why are you the mentor? How did it start? What did you feel? Why do you feel that you are, that adjective is appropriate to you? Once you have established that, don't waste too much time on that. But once you have established, try to talk about specifics of how you're going to help. Now, this is the part, what will you contribute? Now, it's important for you to understand that if you were to say something very bland, okay, something that says, I will help my classmates with that project work, right? Or I'm very good at photography and I will help them take pictures. You need to be slightly more specific, right? Pictures for what? Help them how? So my take would be try to research more on that school. I think for Tuck, even before you start writing the essays, research well on that website. Try to put a list of all the resources, all the things that you would like to participate, and then go and try to see specifically how will you participate. See, there are a lot of blogs also, right? And you could see what is the activity within a club. So don't mention that I would like to participate in the consulting club. What will you do in the consulting club? Right? So you need to go there and mention that, consulting club has this, the speaker series where they, invite successful CEOs. So then you tell them that, I would take this opportunity, go network with CEOs. I would like to. So you need to be able to develop your story very well. I would probably pick no more than 3 things to tell about who I am, right? So 3 things I think is more than enough. Because you have 500 words, you probably need to spend at least 150 words talking about it. You can stretch it to 4, which case you will get probably around 120 words. But also remember that it's not just the 3 points, right? You need to add something in the start. You need to add something at the end. So one thing about 500 word essays, and I've said this earlier, is people tend to be a little lazy. And they think, oh, it's 100 words, I have to be very crisp. But when it's 500 words, I can write a little bit here and there, and I can talk about stuff that I've done. Don't do that. Because 100 words is very easy for you to engage the reader. Because there are only so many words, right? Probably 1 paragraph. But when you look at 500 words, you run the risk of the reader reading and just, glossing over the details because, you bored him. So it's very important to keep it tight, even if it's 500 words. So that's the first essay. The second essay says, Tuck students are nice. I like this word. Tuck students are nice as opposed to Harvard students who are not nice. Tuck students are nice and invest generously in one another's success. Okay, I like the grammar over here, one another's success. Share an example of how you helped someone else succeed. How you helped someone else succeed, and you have 500 words. Even if I know how I succeed, help someone else succeed, what do I write for 500 words, correct? So here is how I would approach the essay. First is obviously you need to pick the story. Remember that there are 3 ways in which you could have helped someone, okay? The first is someone very personal, someone very close to you. It could be your mate's daughter. Okay, or mate's son, or it could be a relative of yours, or it could be someone very close to you who has considered you their mentor, and how you are able to kind of impact them. So that's one thing. The second thing, and I think the one that perhaps most people would talk about, is the professional career, right? So people at work. So how did you work with this person? What did you do? Was he your peer? Was he a person reporting to you? Or you could even help your boss succeed, correct? So I think, very clearly it says generously in one another's success. So it's not necessary that has to be a person below you. It could even be a boss. So you could help explain how you helped your boss. The third thing is if you are part of some non-profit, right? So you have this Big Brother programs in the US. So in India, if as part of an extracurricular activity, as part of an NGO, or something where you had to mentor people. I think if you have an example like that, where you actually went and helped someone in, let's say, an orphanage, or let's say a government school, that obviously would be a great story. So you can pick any of these 3 stories, but how would you go about, giving this 500 words? I would use the START framework. So START stands for situation, task, action, result, takeaways. Situation. What was the background? Who was this person? Why did you need to help him? So give me some backdrop, right? Give me some story, right? What is it? What was it, when you got into it? Task. What is it that you are expected to do? What is it that you are expected to do? Be it your boss, your subordinate, your peer, or someone at the NGO, or let's say your mate's son or daughter. What was the task? Were you that tuition teacher? Were you their career coach? Were you giving them feedback on leadership? So I want to know a little bit about the task. Third, action. What did you really do? Like, did you help them by telling them something? Did you help them by pointing them in the right direction? Like we have this thing, Sam, Dham, Dand, Ved, right? So, did you explain to them Sam? Did you kind of bribe them, Dham? Did you scold them, Dand? Or did you create friction, Ved, right? So, whatever it is, you have to tell what it is, right? Were you frustrated because the other person was not able to understand your point of view? Please tell me that, because I want to know what happened. And we know that things don't happen easily. And many a times when you're looking at investing in a person, it could be a short project for a few months, or it could be something that took maybe a couple of years, correct? So what was your thought process through this? How did you persevere? So I would like to know that. R, results. What happened to that person? As a result of your intervention, as a result of your, advice, what happened, right? Did you help him? Did he succeed? Did he pass the exam? Did he get the promotion? What happened to him in his life, right? I would like to know that. That becomes your R. And finally, the most important part, takeaway, right? What has been your personal takeaways? What is it that you have learned about this whole thing, right? So that becomes your story. They want to know that takeaway. So make sure that you invest enough space, I would say at least about 100 words, focusing on the takeaway, and say, what is it that you have realized about helping others? Do you feel that the sum of the part is greater than the whole? Do you feel that, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link? What is it, right? So I want to know your perspective about the whole thing. Right? One thing over here is, don't keep it very this, oh, I helped them, I succeeded, hence I realized that teamwork is very important. Great. It's a hygiene factor if you're applying to a B school. I want something more. I want something nuanced. I want something slightly more, second order, higher order of thinking. Right? So that's what I would take as my takeaway over here. So as I said, 500 words, you could probably spend 60 to 70 words on each of the points, and then you have 100 plus words for your takeaways and what you have learned from it. Okay, so these are the first two essays. Let's look at the short answer questions. According to me, if you're applying to a bunch of schools, you should probably start with this, because it gives a very, very clear-cut direction of where you are headed. So the first one says, share your short-term goals, 50 words. I don't need to explain. Talk about your role, talk about your function, talk about your industry, 50 words. There is not a lot of room to play around. Okay, so be very, very specific when you're talking about your short-term goal. Long-term goal, again 50 words, right? It's almost unfair, no? Short-term 50 words, long-term 50 words. But long-term, you have the the luxury of being slightly vague. For example, if you say, I want to be an entrepreneur, which is what 95% of people will end up saying, be more specific what entrepreneurship are you talking about? What domain does that fit into your short-term goal? So you need to be slightly more concrete, right? Don't say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Don't say something like, oh, I want to advise the government on policy decisions, right? Yeah, sure, but how is it help? So you need to tie, you need to kind of, connect the dots. I think that's very important when you talk about long-term goals. And this is true for most schools when you're applying. And then it says, if these are your short-term and long-term goals, the third essay says, how did you arrive at these goals? Slightly more liberal, 75 words. Now, why you arrived at your short-term goal has to be connected with what you have been doing and what you have realized. See, over a period of time when we start our career, we realize we might not know what our true strengths are, what our true passions are, because when you are in college, you're just going through the motion. But you need to tell what was it a particular moment? Was it someone who inspired you, or was it just the realization that you need to be doing more around the areas of what would be your strength, correct? Because you want to capitalize on your strength. So that's what you need to mention. 75 words for it. And finally, another 75 words. How will Tuck help you achieve these goals? Very, very narrow, 75 words. Okay. So I think what I like about the short answers is Tuck could have given you 250 words and told you what are your short-term, long-term goals, why, and how does Tuck help you, correct? So all of these it could have said in one essay, but it's kind of making it into short, nice, juicy pieces. Over here, because you need to get to that role, it's very important not to rehash stuff, right? What people do, they go to tech website, they will research, and they will start writing generic stuff about Tuck, right? Like, I like the community, I like the camaraderie, I like this, like, wait. You need to tell how will tech help you at a personal and a professional level, right? So professional level obviously help you reach your goals. What is it that you want or you need in order to get your goals? So that's the first bit. The second bit is personally, what is it that you think, you will gain from this experience? So both of them should come together for Tuck. Do not write a single sentence that is like a generic sentence that could have been used for any B school. World-class, facilities and renowned faculty and, all that. Please save the generic stuff. Be very, very specific. That's the tip for this particular essay. So that's pretty much what we have for Tuck, and these are the essays that we have for this year. We have had students who have gotten into Tuck in the past. We have worked with many such Indian students. In case you are interested to apply to Tuck, in case you feel we can work together, there is some insights that we can share with you, why don't you just go ahead and let us know? The details are below, and we would love to get in touch with you to see if we can work together on this. Thank you.